الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. So the last class we took the statement of the author عليه رحمة الله where he said وَعَلَمْ أَنَّ الْخُرُوجَ عَنَ الطَّرِيقِ عَلَى وَجْهَيْنِ. He said, know and realize that leaving the path that is correct, or the correct path, it was from two angles. أَمَّا أَحَدُهُمَا فَرَجُلٌ قَدْ زَلَّ عَنِ الطَّرِيقِ. As for the first, then it is the person who he deviated from the correct path. وَهُوَ لَا يُرِيدُ إِلَّا الْخَيْرِ. And he only intended good. فَلَا يُقْتَدَى بِزَلَّتِهِ فَإِنَّهُ هَالِكٌ. In this situation, a person is not to be followed in his mistake because he's going to be destroyed. If a person was to follow him in that mistake, he's going to be destroyed. وَرَجُلٌ عَانَدَ الْحَقِّ وَخَالَفَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ فَهُوَ ضَالٌ مُضِلٌ. And the second type of person is the one who opposes the truth. And he goes against those who preceded him from the righteous. This individual is ضَالٌ مُضِلٌ. Right, he is astray himself and he leads others astray. شَيْطَانٌ مَرِيدٌ فِي هَذِهِ الْأُمَّةِ. He's a rebellious devil in this ummah. حَقِيقٌ عَلَى مَنْ عَرَفَهُ أَنْ يَحْذَرَهُ أَنْ يُحَذِّرَ النَّاسَ مِنْهُ. حَقِيقٌ عَلَى مَنْ عَرَفَهُ أَنْ يُحَذِّرَ النَّاسَ مِنْهُ. It's befitting for the one who knows about this individual. It's talking about the second, the latter, that he warns the people against him. وَيُبَيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ قِصَّتَهُ. And that he clarifies to the people his situation. لِأَلَّا يَقَعَ فِي بِدْعَتِهِ أَحَدٌ فَيَهْلِكَ. So that no one else or no person is going to follow him or commit his innovation and thus be destroyed. So last class, very quickly, we took the two categories that were mentioned in the statement of the author alayhi rahmatullah. The first type of person is who? We just mentioned it. There's two type of people who go astray from the truth. The first type is who?
People who they have a good intention.
They have a good intention,
but they don't have the correct belief. Or
they go astray.
Yeah, they go astray.
All right. So the first type of individual is the one who goes astray, but not on purpose. They have a good intention. And this, as was already mentioned, is a proof that just having a good intention is not enough. A person has to be in accordance to the truth. And the second type of individual is the one who does what?
Who completely disregards anything.
And he disregards the truth and he purposely goes against it. This individual, of course, is worse than the second.
Does he advocate to hinder the truth like Abouharb?
Yes, that's applicable as well. Right, that's why the Shaykh he uses the term, it's going to come tonight, ضَالٌ مُضِلٌ. Right, he's misguiding himself and he leads others astray. So the first type is of a lesser harm. The first type is an individual, he doesn't do it on purpose. And like we mentioned before in previous classes, this can be applicable to even scholars. There were scholars in the past that made mistakes when it came to the creed. But they didn't do it on purpose. But nonetheless, if a person is aware, for example, a person is reading one of these scholars' books that made a mistake in Aqidah, he can't say, this is Imam such and such, so therefore I'm going to follow him. If you know it's incorrect, it's not permissible for you to follow him in that mistake. The second type of individual is the one who purposely goes against the truth. This person, as the Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned, is a shaytanun marid. Yeah, he's a rebellious devil. And this is the point that's going to come tonight. فَهُوَ ضَالٌ مُضِلٌ شَيْطَانٌ مَرِيدٌ. أي هُوَ ضَالٌ فِي نَفْسِهِ. He is misguided himself. وَمُضِلٌ لِغَيْرِهِ. And he leads others astray. وَهُوَ شَيْطَانٌ مَرِيدٌ مُتَمَرِّدٌ. He's a rebellious devil. يُرِيدُ صَرْفَ النَّاسِ عَنَ الصِّرَاطِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. And how evil can a person really be if this is his intention? He wants to turn people away from the truth. A person has to be a devil if that's his intent. He wants people to go to the hellfire. So the statement of the author alayhi rahmatullah, حَقِيقٌ عَلَى مَنْ عَرَفَهُ أَنْ يُحَذِّرَ النَّاسَ مِنْهُ ويبين للناس قصته لئلا يقع في بدعته أحد فيهلك. So it's befitting for the one who knows about this individual. What individual are we talking about? The second type. The person who purposely goes against the truth. It's befitting for the one who knows about him to warn others against him and to clarify to the people his situation so that they do not fall into his innovation and thus are destroyed. So Shaykh Fawzan, he says, أي هذا الذي خرج عن الحق متعمدا لا يجوز السكوت عنه. This person who purposely goes astray, right? He goes and he opposes the truth on purpose. It's not permissible to be silent about his situation. بل يجب أن يكشف أمره ويفضح خزيه حتى يحذره الناس. In this situation, if a person is leading others astray, he's an innovator and he's calling to misguidance and innovation, it's obligatory to expose him. It's obligatory, it's incumbent to expose his situation so that people will be cautious of him. وَلَا يُقَالْ, pay attention to this point. وَلَا يُقَالْ النَّاسُ أَحْرَارٌ فِي الرَّأْيِ حرية الكلمة احترام الرأي الآخر. Right? It's not to be said that the people are free to think however they want to think. Freedom of thought or freedom of speech and respecting the views of others. كما يدندنون به الآن. Like others are like people are, they're chanting and echoing right now. من احترام الرأي الآخر. Respecting the views of others. الشيخ العلامة Ibn Baz rahimahullah ta'ala, he was asked, هل يجوز أن يكون هناك ما يسمى بحرية الرأي? Is it permissible for there to be something that's called the freedom of view or freedom of opinion? أي يفتح المجال لأهل الخير وأهل الشر كل يدلي بدلوه في المجتمع. Basically, this is implying that basically people who are good, the good people and the bad people, they can give their views, right? They're given the opportunity to give their views and to contribute those views to the society. So the Imam, alayhi rahmatullah, he said, هذا باطل. This is falsehood. لا أصل له في الإسلام. There's no basis for this in Islam. And this is important for us to understand because we live here in the West and we hear these type of expressions all the time. Freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, and so on and so forth. Is no origin for this in Islam. There's no such thing. بل يجب أن يمنع الباطل. What's obligatory is that falsehood is prevented. ويسمح للحق. The truth is to be permitted. ولا يجوز أن يسمح لأحد يدعو إلى الشيوعية أو الوثنية أو يدعو إلى الزنا أو القمار وغير ذلك. It's not permissible for it to be permitted for a person to advocate for communism or idolatry or fornication and adultery and gambling other than this. سواء بالأسلوب المباشر أو غير المباشر, whether it's directly or indirectly. بل يمنع ويؤدب. Right? This type of person, he's to be prevented from doing this and he's to be disciplined. بل إن هذه هي الإباحية المحرمة. Rather, this is immorality that is impermissible. This is immorality that's impermissible. And this, what they call حرية الكلمة, right? Freedom of speech. This is very dangerous. Because once a person says it's okay for a person to basically advocate or say whatever they want to say, then that means they can talk against the religion. They can degrade the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Looking at the countries in Europe, the ones who permitted, for example, that foolish individual who did the cartoons about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the government had no issue with it. Why? Because they say that's freedom of speech. So, but once a person says that statement, even if they're a Muslim, they say it's okay. A person can express whatever they want to express. Then you're basically advocating for that type of foolishness. is a foolish individual. He's supposed to be Muslim, and to my knowledge, he recanted the statement, but he was basically asked, this is paraphrasing it, about whether or not it should be allowed for people to insult the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Because we live here in the West, in terms of democracy and all of these laws that the kuffar abide by. So he basically said, based upon the circumstances, if a person wanted to do that, then it's that's up to them basically. He recanted it from what I recall. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but for a person to say something that foolish, it just shows the lack of understanding of the religion. Who's going to allow that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam be ridiculed and derogatory things said about him? This is kufr. So a person says that it's okay to talk bad about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost, or the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or any other aspect of the religion, then you're advocating for kufr. You're advocating for disbelief. There's no way to get around it. So we have to be careful when it comes to these type of terminologies that the kuffar are always saying. We're Muslim, alhamdulillah. We have a sharia. We have a legislation that we have to abide by. What did you about to say?
Yeah, mocking the religion is also considered.
It's kufr. Yes, mocking the religion is disbelief.
So like even these memes on YouTube that are like, because
it depends on the extent of it, but I mean, the scholars they differentiate, for example, between a person mocking a Muslim who's practicing. For example, they're mocking that Muslim because of his, the way that he dresses or whatever the case is, and between mocking Islam itself. Both of them are haram. But when a person is mocking the religion specifically, that's kufr. And it's feared for the person, for example, who's mocking a brother, for example, who grows his beard. He grows his beard. He says he looks like, I don't know. He makes some type of derogatory statement trying to poke fun at him. It's feared for him that he could have left the religion as well. So it's a very dangerous matter. But these type of terminologies, freedom of opinion, freedom of speech, these are Western terms. These are a product of the disbelievers. It has nothing to do with Islam. So what the Sheikh Fawzan, he says right here, فَالْمَسْأَلَةُ لَيْسَتْ مَسْأَلَةَ آرَاء. It's not an issue of views. It's not an issue of views or what people think. الْمَسْأَلَةُ مَسْأَلَةُ اتِّبَاعٍ. This is an issue of following the Quran and Sunnah, following the religion. نَحْنُ قَدْ رَسَمَ اللَّهُ لَنَا طَرِيقًا وَاضِحًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has illustrated for us a clear-cut path. وَقَالَ لَنَا سِيرُوا عَلَيْهِ. And He has told us to follow this path, to transverse upon this path. حينما قال, when He said, وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ. And indeed this is my straight path, so follow it. فأي شخص يأتينا ويريد منا أن نخرج عن هذا الصراط فإننا أولا نرفض قوله. So any person who comes to us and he wants us to leave the straight path, the path of Allah, then firstly, what do? We reject what he says. That's the first thing. نرفض قوله. We don't accept it. وثانيا نبين ونحذر الناس منه. The second thing is we clarify to the people and we warn the people from this type of person. وَلَا يَسْعُونَ السُّكُوتُ عَنْهُ. Right? We can't be quiet about this type of individual. And this is a very important point as well. Because there are many people who know the truth and they're aware of what's correct, but they won't say anything, for example, if someone is calling to falsehood. So they know what's correct, they know what they should be doing, but at the same time, if falsehood is being brought up or falsehood is being promoted, they're quiet. They won't say anything. The Shaykh says, we can't be quiet. We can't be quiet. لأننا إذا سكتنا عنه اغتر به الناس. And this is the natija, or the result of being quiet. Because if we're silent and we don't say anything, then the people are going to become deceived. لا سيما إذا كان صاحب فصاحة ولسان وقلم وثقافة. Especially if that person, this person who's calling to falsehood or innovation, if he is eloquent, and he knows how to write. He's a writer and he's educated. فَإِنَّ النَّاسِ يَغْتَرُّونَ بِهِ, because the people are going to be deceived by him. وَيَقُولُونَ هَذَا مُؤَهَّلٌ, and they're going to say he's qualified, he has credentials. And this is one of the things that we already mentioned. Many Muslims, they use a person's eloquence as though that's the most important criteria in terms of taking knowledge from that individual. Yeah, many deviant individuals who are eloquent, and they call into falsehood. Look at Yasir Khalid. He has a doctorate degree from Yale. Prior to that, he graduated from the Islamic University of Medina. And if you were to look at old videos of this individual, right, when he graduated initially, even in terms of how his beard is, he had a longer beard back then. But forget that, that's the least of his issues. In terms of the ideologies and the foolishness that he promotes now, he went to the far left. But people will look at him. He has a doctorate degree from Yale. He has some Islamic studies. But the reality is that the Islamic studies that he did, he's not practicing what he learned. So it's not. This is not the most important aspect when it comes to the person that you're seeking knowledge from. That the person is highly qualified, or he has degrees, or any of this. Shaykh Muqbil ibn Hadi al-Wadi'i, alayhi rahmatullah, one of the scholars of Yemen. He was in Saudi in the 70s, in the late 70s, or in the 70s, and he left in the end of the late 70s. Alayhi rahmatullah. He got his master's. He actually got 2 degrees from Kulliyat al-Sharia and Kulliyat al-Da'wah, the faculty of Sharia and the faculty of Da'wah. He did this in the same time. In the summertime, he would stay. Right? Normally what the students would do, they would go back to their countries and they would, spend the summer with their family, or they might work, or whatever the case is. He would stay, and he completed the faculty. He got a degree from the faculty of Sharia and the faculty of Da'wah. And his thesis for his master's was so good that the one who basically did the debate with him for his thesis, he said it was so good that if it was allowed for him to give him a doctorate for it, he would have gave him a doctorate for it. That's how good it was. But this is the same Sheikh Muqbil rahimahullah, when he got back to Yemen, that shahada or that degree didn't mean anything. It's been mentioned that he ripped it up, he threw it away. Because what's important is knowledge. It's not just a degree or a piece of paper. If a person has a degree from a prestigious university, but he's upon a methodology other than what that university is calling to and propagating, then in reality it's a proof and evidence against you. It's not for you. So it's no need to have it on your CV. I graduated from Islamic University of Medina, but you're a Sufi, or you're Shi'i, or you calling to a brotherhood with these type of deviant groups. It means absolutely nothing. It means absolutely nothing. This is like, you could put it in these type of terms, like a person went to Harvard, right, and they got their degree in medicine. They got their degree in medicine, whatever the case was. And then after that, they just started doing their own thing, became a herbologist, just started reading books, and it's like, I'm just going to disregard everything that I learned in school, but then on their CV they're still putting, I graduated from Harvard, but you're not doing nothing in terms of the studies that you actually took from the university itself. You're just reading books, going to YouTube videos. You see a nice short right here. Oh, this herb does such and such. It's a benefit for this. And I'm not saying that information is never beneficial, but this is like the same analogy, right? You're doing your own thing. You're basically just reading for books at this point. So it's not that degree is not of any benefit in that situation. So as the Sheikh Fawzan, he mentioned, the people they're going to say, especially if a person is eloquent, he's a good speaker, and he's educated, the people are being deceived. They want to say this person is qualified. هذا من المفكرين, right? He's a thinker. كما هو الحاصل الآن, and this is what's taking place now. فالمسألة خطيرة جدا. This issue is extremely dangerous. وهذا فيه وجوب الرد على المخالف, right? This shows that it's obligatory to refute the one who's in opposition to the truth. It's obligatory to refute the one who is in opposition to the truth. عكس ما يقوله أولئك. And this is the opposite of what these type of people are saying. يقولون أترك الردود. They say abandon refutations. دعوا الناس كل له رأيه واحترامه. And they say leave the people as they are, and every person can have his own view and he's to be respected. وحرية الرأي وحرية الكلمة. Right? They can have their own view, they can have their freedom of speech and so on and so forth. بهذا تهلك الأمة. If this is the case, this ummah is going to be destroyed. And perhaps some people do say ignorance. They might say, if you're speaking about, for example, even if the person is a deviant, let's say that's ghibah, that's backbiting, right? And they'll take the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the hadith Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, when the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Atadruna mal ghibah?" Do you know what backbiting is? They said, "Allahu wa rasuluhu a'lam." Allah and His Messenger know best. He said, "Dhikruka akhak bima yakrah." It is that you mention about your brother, and this is applicable to the sisters as well, that you mention about your brother or your sister that which they dislike. So they'll take this hadith, they say you shouldn't be talking about other Muslims. Yeah, we know they have some mistakes and that, they'll say this, but they try to justify, he's Muslim still. He's still Muslim. When it comes to the issue of backbiting, the scholars have given detail. It's not just unrestricted. It's not unrestricted. Like, it's not just left like this. That it's every circumstance. If a person if he was to do it, then it's haram. No, there's cases when it's allowed. An-Nawawi alayhi rahmatullah, he mentioned 5 or 6 rather. He mentioned 6 cases when it's permissible to backbite another Muslim. And for the fourth reason, because we're not going to go through all of them, even though it's important for people to know these, because unfortunately, because of ignorance, Muslims sometimes they think they're backbiting when in reality they're not. Nonetheless, the fourth reason that he mentions, تَحْذِيرُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ مِنْ شَرِّهِ. Right? It's allowed to backbite another Muslim when you're warning other Muslims from his evil. When you're warning other Muslims from his evil. كَجَرْحِ الْمَجْرُوحِينَ مِنَ الرُّوَاةِ وَالشُّهُودِ وَالْمُصَنِّفِينَ. Right? And this is he gives an example like in the science of hadith. How do we know if a hadith is sound or not? Right? The scholars of hadith is a science. So, for example, if a person was known to be a liar, or he had a weak memory, and so on and so forth, then the scholars would say, for example, Fulan da'if. They say he's weak. Fulan kadhab. They say he's a liar. Is that not ghibah? It's a ghibah, but it's permissible. This is permissible ghibah. A person is not incurring a sin by doing so. Also, al-khamisa, this is the 5th reason that he mentioned. Al-rabi'a is sufficient. But he mentions this, and this is specifically with regard to Ahlul Bid'ah. He said, أَنْ يَكُونَ مُجَاهِرًا بِفِسْقِهِ أَوْ بِدْعَتِهِ. That the person is open with his sin or his innovation. So, when it comes to fisq, that's clear. Like a person's right outside of the masjid and he's drinking a 40 ounce. If a person was to say, brother so-and-so is sitting on the step right there and he's drinking a 40 ounce, that's not ghibah. It's not ghibah. You're not incurring a sin because he's doing it right there in the open. It's different as opposed to if a person is, he's somewhere else, he's far away from people to see him, and it's clear he's trying to hide his sin, but someone just happens to see him. But when a person is right there on the step of the masjid, and somebody mentioned this to me some time ago, they said, what is the situation in Papa? They said it was a brother smoking right outside of the masjid. And the brother, he was like astonished. And he's a revert. He's like what? He said, how are we supposed to deal with this type of person? I said, he should be advised. He said, he's been advised. And he's still smoking outside of the masjid, Allahumma musta'an. But if a person was to say, Fulanun yaf'al kada, so-and-so is doing this right in the open, it's not ghibah. You're not incurring sin because they're doing it open. And likewise, bid'ati. If a person is doing innovation right in the open, or he's calling and advocating for his innovation, you're not incurring a sin by saying that so-and-so is calling to khuruj, for example. He's calling to revolting against the Muslim rulers. Or he's saying that the Quran, wa'iyadu billah, is created. And so on and so forth. It is not blameworthy for a Muslim to warn other Muslims from this type of individual in this situation. You're not incurring sin. نعم. السلف ما سكتوا عن أمثال هؤلاء. The Salaf, right, the righteous predecessors of this ummah, they were not silent about these type of individuals. Individuals who were deviant. بل فضحوهم وردوا عليهم. Right, they exposed them and they refuted them. لعلمهم بخطرهم على الأمة. And this is because they knew they were a danger to this ummah. نحن لا يسعنا أن نسكت عن شرهم. Right, we cannot be silent about the evil of these type of people. بل لا بد من بيان ما أنزل الله. It's imperative that we clarify what Allah has revealed. وإلا فإننا نكون كاتمين. Otherwise, we're concealing the truth. We're concealing the truth. من الذين قال الله فيهم. From amongst those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said regarding them, إن الذين يكتمون ما أنزلنا من البينات والهدى من بعد ما بيناه للناس في الكتاب أولئك يلعنهم الله ويلعنهم اللاعنون. Indeed, those who conceal that which we have revealed of clear proofs and guidance after we have clarified to the people in the book, they are those whom Allah has cursed, and they are cursed by all of the creation. And when a person is cursed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does that even mean? Naam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has distanced that person from His mercy, from attaining His mercy. And who wants to be distanced from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Every single person is in dire need of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those who conceal the clear proofs and the evidences and the guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed to the people, they are those whom Allah has cursed, and all of the creation cursed them. And this verse is with regard to the Jews, is with regard to the Christians, and other than them. So concealing knowledge, concealing the truth, this is extremely dangerous. فَلَا يَقْتَصِرُ الْأَمْرُ عَلَى الْمُبْتَدِعِ. Right? This issue is not just confined to the innovator. بَلْ يَتَنَاوَلُ الْأَمْرُ مَنْ سَكَتَ عَنْهُ. It's even applicable to the one who's silent about that innovator. You have a lot of individuals who say they're from Ahl-Sunnah, and they cooperate with Ahlul Bid'ah. You'll see them sometimes sitting on the same platform doing discussions about Islam. I'm going to give you an example. It's an individual I know. I personally know him. Graduated from the Islamic University of Medina. He has a master's in Hadith. He has a master's in Hadith. And he was sitting on a platform with an individual. I actually mentioned him not too long ago. And this is an individual who advocates for, like, what's the girl's name in Minnesota? Omar, what's her name? Ilhan Umar. Ilhan Umar. This Somali lady. I don't know, Allah knows best if she's even a Muslim. Allah knows best if she's even a Muslim. And the reason I say that is because the stuff that she calls to is clear kufr. Nonetheless, this individual was sitting on the same panel with this brother that graduated. He has a master's from Kulliyat al-Hadith. He has a master's. They're sitting on the same panel, being asked questions about Islam and so on and so forth. And Allah knows best. I haven't heard anything, but to my knowledge, this brother never said anything about this individual. He advocates for, liberalism, these type of so-called Muslims that are in government, in Congress, and so on and so forth, that advocate for things that are in clear opposition to the religion of Islam. This individual, to my knowledge, he hasn't said nothing about this individual, but he's on the same panel talking about Islam with him. Right? This is a great disservice to the Muslims. Because when someone sees a graduate from a prestigious Islamic university, whether it's Medina University, al-Qura, or the University Muhammad ibn Saud in Riyadh, or other than that, they're going to think, MashaAllah, this brother, he's highly qualified, he's upon the Sunnah, and so on and so forth. And because he's sitting on the same panel with this individual who in reality is an ignoramus, he's misguided, has deviated beliefs, they're going to think that that person's okay now. Because you're not saying nothing about him. You're cooperating with him. This is very dangerous. So the issue is not just restricted to the innovator. It's also applicable to the one who's silent about his innovation. فإنه يتناوله الذم والعقاب. This person who's silent, even if he's not calling to innovation or advocating innovation, he's censured, he's blameworthy, and also he might be punished. لأن الواجب البيان والتوضيح للناس. Because what's obligatory is to clarify to the people the truth. وهذه وظيفة الردود العلمية المتوفرة الآن في مكتبات المسلمين كلها تذب عن الصراط المستقيم. And this is the function or the purpose of the knowledge-based refutations that are available now in the libraries of the Muslims. All of them defend the straight path. وتحذر من هؤلاء, and they warn against these deviant individuals. فلا يروج هذه الفكرة فكرة حرية الرأي وحرية الكلمة واحترام الآخر إلا مضلل كاتم للحق. The only person who spreads this type of ideology, which is what calling to the freedom of opinion, the freedom of speech, and respecting the views of others, regardless of whatever that view is, this person is one who leads others astray, and he conceals the truth. نحن قصدنا الحق. Right? Our objective is the truth. ما قصدنا نجرح الناس أو نتكلم فيهم. Our intent is not to criticize others, just to be talking about people. القصد هو بيان الحق. القصد هو بيان الحق. The objective is to clarify the truth to the people. وهذه أمانة حملها الله العلماء. And this is a trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed upon the scholars. فلا يجوز السكوت عن أمثال هؤلاء. So it's not permissible. It's not permissible to be silent about these type of deviant individuals. He says, لكن مع الأسف لو يأتي عالم يرد على أمثال هؤلاء قالوا هذا متسرع إلى غير ذلك من الوساوس. Unfortunately, if a scholar, right, a qualified scholar was to come and he refuted one of these deviant individuals, right, whether it's Yasir Qadi, Umar Suleiman, or whoever, Mufti Mink, if a scholar, a qualified scholar was to come and refute him, the people will say what? هذا متسرع. Right, he's hasty. Or they might say he's impulsive. They say things like this. A person's a scholar. And they say other than that from, these different whispers. Not really from the shaitan. فهذا لا يخذل أهل العلم أن يبينوا للناس شر دعاة الضلال لا يخذلهم. Right, this doesn't dishearten or discourage the scholars from clarifying to the people the evil of these individuals who are calling to misguidance. This doesn't discourage them. Nah. And with this, inshallah, we'll suffice. وسبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.